I just don't get why every company doesn't do this. Who would have ever thought there was 30 steps on how to put a chair on a pallet?
Yeah.
Nothing drives me mad more than an SOP that's stuffed in a drawer that nobody ever looks at. I believe in the power of standardization and having standards, but when that happened, I really was like, this is unbelievable. Looking back now, it's crazy that we done that. We wasted so much money, so much time with systems that weren't up to scratch.
What would you do differently again?
Honestly, we should have.
Today, for our pilot episode, we're going to be talking to Ryan Tierney of Seating Matters in Northern Ireland, a world-class and, dare I say it, world-famous lean organisation, and how they implemented GembaDocs. What was their approach? What would he recommend you must do and what you should not do to do a good job at rolling out your standardised processes? Let's get into this. So Ryan, I'm so excited to be here in the new podcast studio, and today we're going to talk about how you came to GembaDocs.
Yep, thank you, Tom. Thanks for having me. It's brilliant to get the opportunity to sit down with you, and really excited actually for this podcast that you've just launched.
Yeah,
it's going to be really exciting.
So yeah, this is our pilot episode for the GembaTalk by GembaDocs podcast. So the whole idea is we're going to talk to real lean people.
Yep.
Some of them might be consultants, but generally not. They're people who are business leaders and they've done lean and they've got the scars and the trophies that come with it. But I'm almost more interested in the scars, because everybody wants to talk about the trophies. The scars are much more interesting.
Definitely,
and I think we can learn a lot more from them as well. So today, when we were talking about GembaDocs, like you and I have had a journey with that. When we first brought GembaDocs out, you guys didn't use it.
I know.
It's like, I was so hopeful that, it'd be great if Seating Matters used it, but you didn't. So tell us, what was all behind that?
I'm actually looking forward to telling the story because I don't think I've shared it with many people before, and it's actually very interesting. When you developed GembaDocs at the start, I remember you come up to the factory one day and we had a meeting in the canteen.
Yeah.
And you were saying, I've designed this thing called GembaDocs. And I was like, okay. I was a wee bit hesitant. And then you showed me a few of the test screens that you done. And the more you talked about it, the more I thought, this will never work. been really honest.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever said that before.
You haven't even said that to me.
No. But I just didn't see why anybody would use it, or I didn't see an issue with the way we were doing it. And I was sitting on the sidelines for a few years just watching people sign up to GembaDocs, and it was growing and getting bigger, and it just kept, everybody you speak to now is a GembaDocs user. And I just didn't see it at the start. That's been really honest. I didn't see what your vision was.
Yeah.
And thankfully now I do. But at the start, 4 years ago, we were doing all our SOPs on Microsoft Word, on Excel, on whatever system we could find.
Yeah.
And it was really, looking back now, it's crazy that we done that. I wish I had listened to you.
You had a full-time person doing just that.
There was. Chris. Chris was our full-time person. Yep. All he done 8 to 5 days a week, was create SOPs, create instructions on how to do stuff.
And to give that context, at the time you're a 50, 60 people company and you had a full-time person just doing that job. And how many have you got doing it now?
Well, nobody. It's nobody's job anymore.
It's everybody's job.
And it's nobody's job and it's everybody's job, because everybody can do it on their phone, with the app. So, to have software is okay, but to have software that's continuously getting better every single day with a lean mindset, that's what sets it apart. It's not this standalone thing that never changes. It's every time I open up the app, there's a new feature.
Yeah, definitely. And we've built we're in progress of building a real lean culture within GembaDocs. So we're doing our morning meetings, our improvements. We're just on fire.
Yeah. Well, one of the best GembaDocs stories that I've ever came across happened about 3 months ago. And we had a guy, Seamus, that worked in our dispatch department. And Seamus got headhunted to go and work for another company running a restaurant and a bar, a huge place in Derry in our local city. And he handed in his notice. I think he had 6 weeks notice to give. But on the day that Seamus handed in his notice, he made a decision. He was going to leave his job standardized so that the next person can come in. And Seamus started there and then, and he done 55 GembaDocs from the moment he handed in his notice until he left the company.
Wow.
And it meant we didn't have time to get a replacement for Seamus, but it meant anybody in the company could come over, step in and do his job. And it's one of the best. I believe in GembaDocs, and I believe in the power of standardization and having standards. But when that happened, I really was like, right, this is unbelievable. You know, to think that he would leave his job better than he found it, leave his job standardized so that somebody else could come in. And I'm going to send this podcast to Seamus because he's actually now improved our offboarding process. We have an offboarding process. Obviously, we don't want people to leave, but people do leave and move on. So now when somebody says, I'm leaving, I'm handing in my notice, part of the offboarding process is to GembaDoc your job to leave it better for the next person. So, and that was Seamus that we have to thank for that.
There's something I'm really, really interested about. You guys are up around 400 SOPs now and have been around your factory. They're clearly active.
Yeah.
They're everywhere and your people are really using them. So what was your process? How did you get your people engaged into that process of creating SOPs, seeing that they're useful? What was your way of getting your team engaged? Did everybody have GembaDocs? Did just a few people have GembaDocs? What was the process for that?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. And I think for GembaDocs to work really well, it works, you know, it comes in conjunction with a really vibrant culture, having a good culture in place. So we could literally introduce any new concept, any new idea, and people would get on board.
Yeah.
Because the culture is in such a way where they're open to, what's the next thing? What are we doing? GembaDocs,
Yeah.
Let's do it. So the culture was in place, which was a big benefit. So once we said, okay, we've decided on the software that we're using to create all our standards, we're using GembaDocs. If everybody could do one GembaDoc every 2 weeks, that's what we asked our people to do.
Okay, everybody,
every single person. So we have 58 people. So a GembaDoc every 2 weeks, and that's easy. Like there's some people, some people doing a GembaDoc every other day. So one every 2 weeks was a low bar. So it was really easy for people to get on board with that. They had 2 weeks to come up with something, document something, and create the SOP. But think of like 58 GembaDocs every 2 weeks. That's a lot of GembaDocs in 6 months.
It is.
So, and that's how we introduce any change. And I kind of learned this from the Japanese. I've been there 5 times in Japan. This idea of stable change. You know, we don't want to go and say, let's GembaDoc every single process and it has to be done for next month, because it creates chaos and burden and unevenness. So this idea of stable change, not chaotic change, stable change. So it's very slow. It's very deliberate, just one every 2 weeks, but everybody's doing it. And that's how we done it. Yeah.
Beautiful. And do you have a process to review, like how you were getting on, progress and so on while you were doing that?
Yep. So we kept a tracker. We have an improvement tracker, which we had before this anyway, to track our improvements. So we just, instead of doing an improvement every few weeks, we done a GembaDoc every few weeks. So we used that improvement tracker to track, has everybody done their GembaDoc?
Met the commitment that we've made. Yeah,
exactly.
Beautiful. And in terms of the different kinds of processes you have in like every factory, some processes are more critical than other processes and so on. Did you have any process to prioritize or to, you know, let's say, put more focus on the more important processes rather than the less important processes? Did you have any process for that?
Yeah, we did actually. We come up with this color coding system, and it's a brilliant feature that's on GembaDocs. The fact that you can color code the actual physical GembaDoc. So we just, with ourselves, we just decided that a red GembaDoc is a really important GembaDoc, which you need to follow every single time you do that process. A yellow GembaDoc is one that you refer to. It's there to refer to if you've got a question. And then a white GembaDoc is something that isn't that important. So emptying the dishwasher or turning on the dishwasher, cleaning the floor of the kitchen, that will be a white GembaDoc because it's not customer critical. if we don't do it, it's okay. Nobody's going to die. So that's a white GembaDoc. A certain tightening a lock nut on a critical part of the chair. If that lock nut doesn't go in the right way or it doesn't get tightened to the right tension, there's a chance that the chair will fail. So that's a red GembaDoc. That's so important that we follow it every single time. And then a yellow GembaDoc is there to refer to if we have a question. So red, yellow, white. That's how we've done it.
Beautiful.
But because there's a color coding system, everybody can tailor it to whatever they want.
You were the guys that drove that.
Right.
You guys were the way we work with GembaDocs, just in terms of making improvements. Is if we hear an improvement suggestion from one customer, unless it's a wow, we have to do that, which is really rare, we don't act. But if we hear the same thing from several customers, then well, we really should be doing that. You know, and the challenge we have is because we want to keep it simple. The user experience has to be simple. The core, creating an SOP can't be full of knobs and whistles and buttons and choices, because that'll lose the core simplicity of what we're doing. It's like, right, how do we balance that and get it into the product without intruding too much into the core user experience?
And that's why I think people love GembaDocs so much, because when they have a question, it is actually you. It's you that's answering the phone. You know, GembaDocs is growing massively. There's a team now. It's turning into a big corporation, but you're still there. You still realize and value the importance of you being on the Gemba.
Totally. That is my Gemba. My Gemba is the software, the dashboard of the software, and talking to the customers. And the great part is I love all three. So there's no effort for me to be in the Gemba because I absolutely adore talking to our customers. And so at the moment, I still handle all the calls, all the direct one-to-one, you know, book a call things. We're in the process of scaling that up and bringing other people in. But at the moment, I still do them all. And I will always have a finger in that particular pie because it's how we grow and develop. Because if I wasn't in that and I'm still the owner of the product, how are we going to develop if we don't listen to our customers properly?
Exactly.
So you got a prioritization process in the Seating Matters process for GembaDocs. How do you decide where to put the GembaDocs?
Like, where to physically put it?
Physically put them.
I'm so glad you asked that, because it's something that I am so passionate about. Nothing drives me mad more than an SOP that's stuffed in a drawer that nobody ever looks at. You know, before coming across Lean and GembaDocs and everything, I thought SOPs were something that you pulled out once a year when you had an ISO audit, you know, to show the auditor, we've got all our processes documented. But it was just false and fake, and you know, what's the point having it if we're not looking at it?
Wallpaper.
So it's wallpaper, So what we say is, wherever you're asking the question, that's where the GembaDoc should be. So if I'm asking, how do I turn on this new dishwasher? We've got a new dishwasher in the canteen. How do I turn it on? There's the GembaDoc. If I'm asking, how do I empty the cardboard baler in the factory? The GembaDoc is right there. Where I'm asking the question, how do I dispatch a UK pallet for DSV? Bang, it's there. So wherever you're asking the question, that's where the GembaDoc should be.
Totally.
You know, that's as simple as I can explain it, but that's all we should be doing.
For implementation, I think that is the perfect answer. So, you know, if people aren't aware of the answer, how are they supposed to know?
That's
you
right.
know, you can't criticize somebody for not using the SOP they didn't even know existed.
So I've actually brought I've got one here just to show, because we made these really cool holders. We just made them ourselves, manufactured them in-house. But we love the printed SOP. We love the printed GembaDocs. I know you can keep it on the app or keep it on the system, but I actually like just having it there to look at. So this is like how to pallet a Sorrento chair. But this SOP is physically on the workbench where we pallet the Sorrento chair. You know? And you can just flick through it. It's all color-coded. If we want to update it, we just scan the QR code. It's got all the steps, all 29 steps.
Yeah, you're not laminating either. They're slotted in.
Slot it into the sleeve,
holder,
yeah.
Mm.
So if you need to update one, you can just slide it out and put the new one in.
Mm-hmm.
It really makes so much sense. I just don't get why every company doesn't do this, but a lot of them are, and they're getting onto it. But we love it. We
I
really
actually
do.
saw an extreme example of that when I was in the shop today. There was a girl I was talking to. You came at the tail end of the interaction, but you
Rebecca, yeah.
You have one of those on a stand on wheels. And she told me that she'd been dragging that around with her all morning because the work area is quite big.
Yeah.
And all the SOPs for that job are on that trolley.
Yeah.
And she's been pulling the trolley around all morning. It's like so cool. It's an extreme example of that.
Yeah. But another massive thing, and I really want to get this across, I almost want to look at the camera so people get this.
Right, where's the camera?
There's loads of cameras here. There's like 5 cameras watching us. But when we came across GembaDocs and we started to document our processes, we seen so much waste in the process of doing that. Because who would have thought that there's, let's see how many steps there is to doing this process. 30. So there's 30. Who would have ever thought there was 30 steps on how to put a chair on a pallet?
Yeah.
But it wasn't until we documented the process that we seen how much waste there was.
Totally.
So there was probably 45 or 46 steps in this before.
Yeah.
But the physical act of going through the documenting process forced us to improve it and see the waste.
Oh, it's incredible. I totally get that. It's because, especially if more than one person is creating the process, especially if it's 2 people who know the job quite well, what you find inevitably is they don't do it the same.
Yes.
And so Dave does it different from Mike, and Mike goes, oh my God, I didn't realize you could do it like that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it like that now. And since you automatically generate improvements from creating the standard, especially if you use 2 people. Like I'm in the process of writing another book around doing this.
Yeah.
And what I'm recommending is that if the process is in any way critical, so in your words, a yellow or a red, that you use 2 people, minimum of 2 people to create those standards. And so, okay, it takes a bit longer. You know, you're using 2 people instead of 1, but you will end up with a better quality SOP. Yeah. With the input of 2 people. Even if it's a new person versus an experienced person, why do you do it like that? What's the, they see things that the other person won't
really
see.
Good idea. Yeah.
So I'm recommending, at least 2 people for those kind of processes will give you a better outcome because creating the SOP, in GembaDocs, a minute a step is what I'm now able to say to people. Yeah. So if you look at that, 30 steps, half an hour, times 1 or 2. But how long is that going to live, that standard? No, you're going to be updating it and so on, but that standard lives forever. So would you not think it's a good idea to put a bit more investment into the original first go so that you get a better quality? Because that SOP is going to be used by lots and lots of people. So you might as well get a good one.
100%. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
That's definitely one of the, let's say, realizations that came when I was writing that book. And the next one was around the ongoing review process. So now you've done lots of SOPs for lots of processes. And what I've seen in our system is like your typical small company does a couple of hundred in maybe 6 months to a year. And they get to that too. And then after that, it's more about maintenance of the standards. You're not generating 20 a week and so on. So, getting to that place where you've documented most of your important processes, but how do we make sure they're still alive and well?
Yes.
Do you get me? So we've got the standards, but how do we prevent them turning into wallpaper? I have answers, but I just wondered what your view was on that.
It can become wallpaper very, very easily. I love that you're talking about a new feature that can remind you. Is that something that's still being worked on?
We built it in now. So you can, I wouldn't suggest you do this for your printer cartridge installation unless you're a printer. But no, for your critical processes, you schedule a review.
Yes.
And the system will remind you to do a review. And we've put a structured methodology into the software now. So What's your team composition? We're reviewing, do we still do it like this? Have we made changes? Do we still have the same tools? Have we got new tools? Are the people doing the job aware, competent, following the tasks? Can we see improvement opportunities in the process itself? Are we looking for quality, simplicity, safety, speed? And we're prompting all of this in a structured process inside GembaDocs. And that was the whole rationale for that. It was, we don't want our SOPs to go dormant.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we have a manufacturing company, Lumen Electronics. We only have one product that we put through that process because it's super safety critical. And so for us, it's like, right, we'll do that every 3 months. There's maybe 20 SOPs associated to that product, and we'll review them every 3 months and make sure everything is still tight.
Yeah.
So that was our way of solving that problem. And we paid it forward, and now all our customers can do the same.
Yeah. And there is one thing that I would like to add to that, and I think this is a massive point, something we learned, is that we found that it was really a good idea to train certain people to be, we call them GembaDoctors.
Right.
Where they're GembaDoc masters, they know the system inside out. And if anybody wants an SOP done, that they work with that person.
Brilliant.
Because we have 58 people. We don't really want 58 people going around with their smartphone making SOPs. They can, they've got the app, but we have 5 people that we call the GembaDoctors. And you can go to Kira, you can go to Annie, you can go to Rebecca, one of the GembaDoctors, and they'll work with you and create the SOP. We've found that to be a really big thing for us.
Love that. And by default, you're meeting that 2 people rule that I spoke about earlier anyway.
Right enough, yeah.
Because that person's getting more and more adept at creating the standards through practice. They're doing it a lot.
Yeah.
And then you've got the process expert is basically the person who's doing the job every day.
Yeah.
And you're getting that team. So no, quality. You've done it by accident.
Aye, that's right.
Super.
But no, I love it.
Great. Ryan, this has just been so much fun having this conversation today. Thank you so much for coming on our first pilot episode of GembaTalk.
Yeah.
It's going to be so exciting. We have so many more people that are in the pipeline now, real lean practitioners who are doing this at a high level. And I'm so looking forward to the candid discussion. Oh, I've got one question. This was the false ending.
Yeah.
What would you do differently again? What was your mistake? When you must have made some mistake when you were doing GembaDocs. What was that, or what were they?
Honestly, we should have done it earlier. Because we wasted so much money, so much time with systems that weren't up to scratch. We honestly should have got GembaDocs quicker, because we would have... It's one of those things that it's costing you money not to have it.
The harsh truth of that, I thought exactly the same.
Yeah.
Genuinely. I was annoyed, not for me, I was annoyed for you. Because I would come up here,
I know.
and I think I had this conversation candidly with you in the early days of you adopting GembaDocs. You didn't really understand what standards were.
Yeah.
You thought you had it, you didn't have a problem. That was my genuine perception. We have a guy, sure, we do it all, we already do all that.
Yeah.
But no, you weren't. You hadn't got full engagement. They weren't living and breathing. They weren't in any detail. This, in your old system, would have been a single page. Yeah. And it would have been a use to man or beast.
That's right.
Genuinely.
No, you're 100% right.
And I was frustrated for you. So no, I'm great. I'm really glad I asked that question. So now I will have the ending to the podcast. So look, fantastic, Ryan. Thank you so much. So excited to be talking to the new people that are coming in. We have people who've done all kinds of different approaches with GembaDocs. This is one of the things I'm so passionate about. What works at Seaton Matters doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it exactly the same as Seating Matters did it. There's gold in there that you will find that'll work for you. But the key thing is how does this fit in your organization and your culture, how many people you have, the kind of processes you have, the kind of culture you already started with. Yeah, look, everybody, I'm so excited. I hope you enjoyed the first episode with Ryan Tierney. We've got lots more gold to come.
Thank you.